The Nissan Pathfinder. 30 years ago, this was a two-door SUV, but today it has been turned into a three-row crossover. I'm Jay, and welcome to the latest episode of CarBuzz Unboxing Reviews. Recently, Nissan invited CarBuzz to come check out the refreshed 2017 Nissan Pathfinder just before it goes on sale in September of 2016, and of course we jumped at the chance because this three-row crossover is a very popular seller for Nissan, and the entire segment of three-row crossovers in general is very hot right now. But one of the things I was interested in finding out about this is it still a real minivan alternative? Because after all, minivans, they also have three rows of seats, but that third row is much more usable, and the overall versatility of the interior space in a minivan I think, is better than a crossover. Now, this Pathfinder here, it is the third generation. As I've already mentioned, it was originally an SUV. So what is the difference between an SUV and a crossover? Simple. An SUV is built on a body-on-frame chassis. It's standard rear-wheel drive. You can plug it into four-wheel drive for all the off-roading adventures you'd like. As opposed to a crossover, it is based on a sedan, meaning front-wheel drive, no real off-roading capabilities. But the secret to crossovers is that automakers realize that if they build a body on top of the platform that looks like an SUV and raise the ride height a few inches, people are going to buy them. And it's been working wonderfully. You have two-row crossovers and three rows like this one. But looking at this from an exterior perspective here, one of my biggest complaints about the Nissan Pathfinder when the third generation came out in 2012 is it lost its edgy appeal. It looked more like a minivan. Its lines were just way too soft. I think a more appropriate name for it would have been the Nissan Pathfinder. It was just not the car that I really used to like, and I think a lot of other people were saying the same things, and to its full credit, Nissan listened. So what did it do to the Pathfinder for 2017 to make it look more like an SUV? Simple. It made it look more like an SUV. Just look at the rear end styling here. It's a bit edgier, a bit more square. The front end, the same deal. But I still would not take it off-roading. Ride height, yes, it's higher than that of a sedan, but even with all-wheel drive, which this particular Pathfinder has, it's all-wheel drive in this case. It's better for rainy or wintry weather conditions, not for rock crawling. But I do like the overall look of this exterior. It's in line with what we're expecting to see from crossovers today. Like with the previous Pathfinder, I think automakers also noticed that crossovers needed to look a little bit more like SUVs just to keep their edge and, well, just separate them further from minivans. Now, under the hood here, this is the only available engine in the Pathfinder today. It's the same 3.5 liter V6 with 284 horsepower and 259 pound-feet of torque. But according to Nissan, more than half the parts here are entirely new. So that means that horsepower has been increased. It used to be 260 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque. So about an extra 24 horsepower. So let's look at this interior here a bit, and you can see that, generally speaking, it's very nice. It's, in my opinion, a little plain, but that's exactly the point. Remember, three-row crossovers, who's going to buy them? Families. They need the space, just like with minivans. But for whatever reason, they don't like the looks of minivans. They prefer the look of an SUV, which they can get in a crossover today. And in my time with this particular one, this is the Platinum, top of the line. I felt all of the building materials were really nice. Again, with all automakers today, it's getting more and more difficult to see cars that have like those old cheap plastics, the hard plastics that old GM used, and they were just horrible. None of that here. So this second row that you see here, a majority of passengers that are obviously not up front are going to be way more comfortable here. The third row, you can get an extra 2 passengers back there, but it's quite tight. For the third row, I really only recommend small children as passengers. Otherwise, it's probably best just to fold it flat and use it for storage space. So like I mentioned, this is the Pathfinder Platinum. There's a total of 4 trim levels. You have the base S, the SL, the SV, and of course the Platinum. And the overall dash design is quite nice. Navigation is standard on the Platinum. You see here, it's optional on the mid-level SL and SV, but it's not even offered on the base model. And Platinum is also the only trim to offer the rear entertainment system, which is just a pair of headrest-mounted 8-inch screens, which those screens are actually 1 inch larger than before. Let's start up this engine and hear the sound of that for a moment. Now, one of the things that I really like about that V6 is that it's naturally aspirated. You're seeing a lot of cars, crossovers as well, and even some SUVs that are going with turbochargers. Ford Explorer that has a turbocharged EcoBoost engine. Nissan, thank you for sticking with naturally aspirated V6s for, well, however long as possible. But as I was saying before regarding the interior design, for the most part, it's very straightforward, kind of plain. It may look like real wood, but it's not. That's okay. Again, family crossover, things are going to get banged up a little bit. But I think the fake wood look might even be better than you have with the black piano plastic that you have in the Mazda CX-9. I think that type of plastic, it's shiny, it looks good at first, but it's going to show a lot of scratches later on. So all Pathfinders come standard with an improved color display in the gauge cluster, and then there's this 8-inch center-mounted touchscreen. So this is actually 1 inch bigger than the 2015 Pathfinder's touchscreen. And if you want to spend the extra money, you can get something called NissanConnect. It's basically instead of voice commands like you would have with Siri. And NissanConnect, it's a subscription service that allows you to literally call an operator and have them input addresses into your nav system so you basically don't have to. And the system can also be used to lock or unlock the doors, start the engine, and you can even honk the horn from a laptop using it. Again, it's a subscription service. It's nice to have, but it's a pure novelty. I don't think that it's a must. Another thing I want you to take notice is that the control buttons here, just below the touchscreen, they're a really nice size. One of the many complaints that I have with buttons such as these in other cars is that they're too small and it's too easy to hit the wrong button, especially for the driver. And again, I know a lot of people are asking because you're probably shopping for a car like this with your family. Is it safe? Of course it is. You have a lot of new driver assistance tech. It's all standard: forward emergency braking, forward collision warning, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic alert, and a round view monitor with object moving detection, which is pretty much like a bird's eye view of surroundings thanks to 4 cameras in 4 different locations, like the front, the trunk, and the side view mirrors. And then there's also intelligent cruise control. I also like this in the center console there, that big large area for storage for just various stuff. Because people have a lot of stuff these days and they just gotta put it somewhere. So another question you might be asking is, how does this updated Pathfinder drive? Well, on paved roads, I found it's a very nice ride. Nissan says it improved the body control, it decreased body motion on rough roads, it also improved steering feedback too. It really doesn't have quite the sporty character of the new Mazda CX-9. This is not a driver's crossover, driver's type car by any means. There is an off-road system that comes standard, and in 4-wheel drive mode, it's just okay. And if you really want a Nissan SUV for off-road adventures, there is a solution. It's called the Nissan Armada, which I just did an unboxing review of as well. And when I mentioned the 4-wheel drive system here in the Pathfinder, it's an on-demand system that it sends all the torque to the rear wheels, but you're going to get the best fuel economy in the standard front-wheel drive mode. And speaking of fuel economy, let's talk about that here, because that was a real big point of Nissan's presentation to us journalists, as well as, well, everyone who I know is interested in this, because gas costs money. And even though it's cheap in the US these days. But the Pathfinder, they claim, has best-in-class fuel economy. 20 miles per gallon in the city, 27 miles per gallon on the highway, and a combined 23. And with all-wheel drive, it's going to be 19 in the city and 26 on the highway. And what's cool is that these are the same fuel economy numbers as the previous Pathfinder, but this car still has 24 more horsepower and 19 pound-feet of torque. Impressive. And to compare fuel economy with the competition, the Honda Pilot has 19 miles per gallon in the city, 27 highway, 22 combined. Toyota Highlander, 19 in the city, 25 highway, 21 combined. And the Ford Explorer, 17 in the city, 24 highway, and 20 combined. And the overall seating position for the driver, I found it to be very nice. You get a really nice commanding view of the road, and one of the attractions with crossovers is the ability to sit higher up than a standard sedan or coupe. Is it safer? Probably yes, but I think it's just nice for people in general to have that, maybe that little reassurance of being higher up. You're just more in control of the road. Maybe it's psychological. I don't know. But can this updated Nissan Pathfinder also do some SUV functions, such as towing? Yes. Nissan also claims it has best-in-class towing of 6,000 pounds. That's actually a 1,000 pound increase from last year's model. And again, to compare to the competition in towing, the Ford Explorer and the Toyota Highlander can both tow 5,000 pounds, while the GMC Acadia can tow up to 4,000 pounds. And of course, rear seat occupants, especially in the second row, are going to be quite comfortable. As you saw just a couple minutes ago, they also, second row occupants have their own sunroof. Front seat passengers have their own as well. And I really like that. It's kind of like a panoramic, but it's just two separate units. So it works just fine. And I've been known to be a big fan of panoramic sunroofs personally. You can also control the climate settings for the second row, plug in your phone. It's nice. This is actually kind of cool. One of the things Nissan was telling me is they added more user-friendly tech to this year's Pathfinder, such as the motion-activated liftgate, and you just literally kick your foot under the rear bumper and it'll open up. And folding the rear seats, the third row here, it's very easy. Suddenly you have a lot more space, and if you need even more, the second row folds flat as well. So, to summarize here, Nissan has given this styling upgrades to make it look more like an SUV. It has added power while retaining its best-in-class fuel economy, and it has increased its towing capacity by an extra 1,000 pounds up to 6,000, so that it is also best-in-class in towing. So what else is the competition? As I already mentioned, you have the Mazda CX-9 that starts at around $32,000 to about $45,000. GMC Acadia also around 32 grand to about 50,000. Ford Explorer, get this, it starts at around 32,000, but it will go up to nearly $54,000. Even the Toyota Highlander also starts in the low 30s, will go above the 50 grand limit there. Now Hyundai Santa Fe, also a very nice three-row crossover in the segment, low $30,000 as well starting price, but it'll also go to the mid-40s. But if you want a real body-on-frame SUV, Nissan Armada, it just starts at around $45,000. Pricing for this Pathfinder will probably begin in the low 30s and go to around 45, but Nissan was still finalizing pricing as of this time. So everyone, I'm out of time. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in next time and let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below.